Hello, today let's talk about the recently released affordable model by FiiO, model JH3. They actually even highlighted their relation to a lower price segment by mentioning their sub-brand Jade Audio on the box. And the offer here is pretty straightforward and simple. It's a hybrid model with big 13.6mm dynamic driver and dual balanced armatures per each earpiece. And of course you're getting a nice design, pretty good wearing comfort, and for a pretty affordable price, if I remember right, it's $60. And in this segment, FiiO also has more or less similar segments. They have FD1 and they have FH1S, but here we're getting slightly different driver configuration, so probably sound also will be different. And without any further words, let's have a closer look. As you can see, package is slightly simpler compared to other more expensive models, but at the same time they have a similar polygraphy, and in general it looks pretty pleasant. So let's go inside. Also pretty traditionally inside of this external box we'll have internal one, and actually you can see that here starts pleasant surprises because FiiO decided to offer buyers a higher price to quality ratio even with accessories set, while some other companies offer just typical matchbox like package. FiiO gave their plastic case, which is really convenient for storing earpieces or even some small player. So it opens this way, and here probably we'll get some tips. Here they are, 3 different set of tips, so as you can see also pretty generous offer. Set of tips is pretty traditional, so we've seen these tips with more expensive FiiO models in the past. Traditional blacker silicone tips, and here in the third bag a pair of phones. So for this price tire, really good set of tips, definitely, with a lot of choice options. In terms of design, it's pretty traditional, reminds some other brand models, plastic inner part and faceplates with interesting wavy design. Doesn't look super fashionable, but at the same time really, reliable approach with all parts in place, ticking all the boxes. As you can see, they have a pretty long spouts and actually nice passive sound isolation that is slightly above average. It will be enough for public street or noisy street or for public transport. I mistaken this word. So here is pressure relief opening, so you can see that they thought about the pressure relief, and even despite of having big drivers there won't be noticeable issues. You can see the internals through the transparent shell. Wires go to the spout, hinting that balanced armature is located in the spout. And here is dynamic driver. As you can see, it's definitely big, so everything is what we can expect. Metal spout with lip and protective grill, so all that stuff is done really well. And build quality is also pretty nice, wearing comfort is good. Cable uses 2-pin connectors here. They decided not to use MMCX, so it's a left ear, so let's use left connector. Everything should be correct. And here it is connected. There is a ear hook format, but without memory wire, and cable itself is just like, it's normal. It's not something superb, but at the same time, sorry, it's soft, it's convenient, it's made of normal quality copper, almost not getting hard when it's cold outside, comfortable with low microphonic effect, and after the splitter it goes braided down to the angle jack. So as you can see, for this part, I'm glad that in many recent reviews I am saying almost the same words. In terms of exterior, model is done really good for this price and even probably exceeds that. And I'm glad that many companies trying to do that on a really good level. And of course, about the sound, I gave them about 48 hours of burn-in, but actually there were no big changes in sound, so if you decide to get them, don't bother with burning in them as a separate process. It's better to spend some time trying different tips, it will be more beneficial. In terms of overall tuning, FiiO decided to develop their ideas of FH series, but shifting them slightly towards a more musical representation. So this model is pretty neutral, kinda technical, but with more weight and with less focus on the micro contrast. So it's pretty transparent, detailed, but at the same time doesn't sound clinical or hyper analytical. But at the same time, it's also far from traditional V-shaped tuning. Low frequencies are slightly accented, but actually not much, so it's not a model, it's definitely not a bass head model, and it's not even a model for those who like a lot of bass. Instead, low frequencies here are pretty deep, nicely controlled, but at the same time they focused more on the speed and more on the impact instead of weight. So probably for electronic music or genres that depends on weighty low frequencies, it's better to choose something else. Luckily, there are a lot of options in this price segment. But if you like to hear small nuances, if you want to get a great texturing, and if you want some highlighted overtones of low frequency instruments, it could be a good option in this price tier because they sound really natural with a very nice attacks. I could select here something like Musica Nuda, for example, or other traditional test tracks, but I decided to select Freedom from Django Unchained soundtrack. They have nice and pretty deep bass line during the chorus. Here you won't get a lot of bass from the start of this track, but then it enters at the chorus and it sounds impressive, and this model actually plays these low frequencies in a pretty engaging way. I also kinda like it with electronic music, but it's just minor share in my media library, so I don't need super bass heavy representation. Mid frequencies are detailed, they are slightly recessed in terms of frequency response, but at the same time they are not shadowed by low frequencies. Bass stays nicely controlled and on its place. Resolution is good, slightly above average for this price tier. They have a slight focus on the micro contrast, but not too much, so they don't sound too analytical or too thin. Weight distribution is done pretty well, but at the same time they're not adding weight to the track, and they don't try to boost macro dynamics and emotions. And in this aspect they are neutral. In terms of nitpicking for the record's quality, they are just average. Better material would be nice, but they don't require something superbly and absolutely well recorded. Imaginary stage is pretty spacious, both in width and in depth. Of course, not super huge, but at the same time also above average. And as an example, Royal Republic, Can't Fight the Disco. I really like this group. They always give me some relax when I'm sad or depressed. They cheer me up because their music is absolutely positive, both in terms of lyrics and in terms of music. It's a fun mix of hard rock and many other genres. And in this track, I like that guitar part that plays at shifted towards the right ear. And actually, this model is technical enough for not losing that guitar part. And the treble also pretty good, of course not stellar, but nice. It has slightly above average extension and typical for balanced armatures, fast attacks and decays. Not super fast, and because of that, weight distribution is pretty good for the treble. But it's still accented, so if you're sensitive to the treble, keep that in mind. And it's typical balanced armatures, clean, crisp, with nice overtone saturation, but of course no audiophilic layering or something like that. And as an example, another interesting track. When I heard it first time, I thought that something happened with my computer because I was listening it from computer through digital to analog converter, but it's okay because introduction here is really distorted, and after that it starts developing as a typical Mars Volta track with interesting ideas, lot of percussions, crazy guitars, and all that things goes high to the treble area and require nice performance, which this model gives. In terms of pairing, of course, they more suited for some digital to analog converter like FiiO JH3, for example, or some entry-level player, and also they are pretty good with Bluetooth ear hooks. It's also a pretty nice combination. But of course, for the full potential, you need some player of upper entry or lower mid segment at least. Speaking about the conversions, just a few models to use as a reference points. So FiiO's own FD1 and FH1S, they are more focused on the micro contrast, they are more analytical sounding, even more detailed, drier, and more thin. And this model is shift towards more natural representation with less focus on that. And KZ ZAX, for example, as a common reference point, they are more V-shaped, bigger, noticeably bigger bass, and slightly more accented treble. And TRN VX, they are more boosting emotions, more focusing on the micro contrast, and sounds overall more aggressive. So to summarize everything, FH3 is a really good sorry, not FH, it's JH3. FH3 it's more advanced model with higher price and better sound, of course. So, JH3 is a good model for those who want something affordable and at the same time closer to neutrality, and at the same time not absolutely monitoring, with a slight hint of fun and emotions. Pretty good way to try more audiophilic experience in the entry segment. But of course don't expect some stellar results, but it's a really fair offer in terms of price to quality ratio. Thank you for listening, thank you for your attention, and of course have a nice day.